So as I was mentioning to you off camera, we were talking earlier today with Steve Tabachman, who's working on the Global Detroit Strategy and Initiative and is a former state representative, and about how really strong regions economically and prosperity speaking are ones that are welcoming, that are able to onboard immigrants, that have high rates of immigrants that become entrepreneurs. How does that then connect into the work that you're doing? I mean, we already have a community, as we've talked about, that's segregated. We have a lot of folks that are coming in from different cultures and populations, mixing it all together, trying to be cognizant of the fact that we already have populations that are disparate, adding new cultures in. What's your sense of the Detroit region in terms of how we've been able to not only assimilate with new cultures, but being cognizant of the problems that have existed with the cultures that have already been here?
Our assimilation is slow. I believe that we as a region will be better served by being welcoming to the other, particularly as it pertains to not only just the basic things of having adequate residents in our space, which we know our population in the entire state tends to be moving away from Michigan, and so we need to have people here, but we have the benefit of, with different cultures, we have the benefit of different, the possibilities of embracing different elements of life, from the arts to food to entrepreneurship and all that brings. And so while it can be troublesome in one sense to think that we've been here, African Americans, we've been here for a really long time, and now there seems to, and the disparities are still real.
Right.
I mean, we still are not operating with full equity by any stretch of the imagination, and now we're reaching out and looking at what it is we need to do for yet another when we haven't addressed what's already at the table. But perhaps there's strength in numbers. And I say that in meaning that looking at what it's going to take to be welcome to our immigrant friends, to be a part of our community, to have them really incorporate their lives and their businesses and their education into our community will make it easier for us to embrace all communities. And at the end of the day, we should all be better served. What I know for sure is that there's more to gain than there is to lose if we are sensitive to the fact that there are people who are here, who've been here, who've quite frankly fought the good fight, who have been in the trenches for a long time around this conversation of equity and fairness. And that fight doesn't stop. If anything, it just gets bigger.
This one could be a little bit charged here, but I'll ask you and we'll see how we progress here. But I'm curious to know what you think. It seems to me that it's almost encouraged when you have new cultures that come into a region, whether it be here in Detroit or elsewhere in the United States, that there's an encouragement to kind of keep some cultural identity. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that that's been the case necessarily with, I think it's almost sometimes, at least speaking for, what my sense has been, growing up in the Detroit area as a white person, there's almost that fear or just not that same way of looking at being able to preserve African American heritage. Do you think you're seeing that we're getting past that? I mean, we have the Charles Wright Museum. We're starting to think about, the value of all different cultures. We're starting to think about diversity. We talk about it differently. Do you think as we see kind of this new generation of people coming into jobs and civic engagement, there will be a little bit more, there will be more equanimity, is that the right word? In terms of being able to celebrate the cultures all across the board, including the African American culture?
The short answer would be yes. I believe that all of us have a responsibility to assure that our own uniqueness is maintained and heard. So while we have examples like the Charles Wright Museum into itself can't do the total job. Mm-hmm. It still is the requirement of grandmothers sitting with their grandchildren and telling the story of their culture and their community. It's still a part of collecting that oral history, a part of holding true to the values that make us unique to continue to respect and honor that, while understanding and appreciating, reaching across the table, if you will, to understand what other cultures do, and to learn to appreciate and celebrate that. I think that if we do that, if we are successful in our ability to maintain and honor and yet reach and celebrate, we can become one of the most interesting, rich communities and be the model. We can set the standard of what it looks like to be all embracing. And I would further say that our community overall will do better economically, from an educational standpoint, from job opportunities. We know that cool cities and inclusive communities tend to bring the best and the brightest. And that's what we need. And I think that's what it's going to take for us to get all people here to do that.